So in green is what remains of our primary forest in our part of BC. This might be a little bit disorientating for people that don't know BC geography very well. We're in Prince George, so it's in the small writing right in the middle. We're kind of like really close to the middle. To the east of us is the kind of Rocky Mountains. In red are the degraded forests. So every places that have been previously logged, roaded, some of it has been deforested for farms or urban development. And Conservation North, our group is trying to protect what's in green from being industrially logged or roaded. What's amazing about our forests here is that even after a century of intense logging of primary forests, we still have these wildlife here. Wildlife in this part of BC have evolved over thousands of years to use the whole variety of natural forest types. We still have all of our pre-contact large-bodied animals, if you'll believe it or not, things like wolverine, caribou, grizzly bear, cougar, just to name a few. We have migratory songbirds, plants, mysterious life forms called lichens. The populations of these animals may not necessarily be doing well, but they're still here, and our group considers this to be a privilege, and this is who we're trying to protect with our work here. So our local rainforests look a bit like this. They're often old with lots of structures and complexity that has developed over long periods of time because we don't get large scale forest fires in this part of BC. And these forests are functionally irreplaceable. They do not come back once they're logged. In BC, once an old forest is logged, the land enters a cycle of short rotation industrial forestry. So plantations of trees replace old forests. Plantations look like this, and when they're older, they might look like the one on the right. This is an area that was logged by the company we're talking about today, Pinnacle. This cut block is about a 30-minute drive from where I live. This isn't rainforest, it's called subboreal forest. So as the public in BC becomes more concerned about what's happening to our last primary forests here, the interests that we're up against are not stopping what they're doing. They're just getting smarter about getting what they want. And one of the ways that they're doing this is by spreading misinformation. So they use language to convince the general public that what the forestry sector and the BC government are doing is virtuous and the right thing. They know that regular BCers are not okay with cutting down and squishing our remaining primary forests into pellets. So they've come up with a claim to virtue for doing this. Pellets are basically a solution looking for a problem, and the forestry industrial complex in BC has the perfect problem, which is that some forests are waste. So I need to explain this. Before I go into this, I need to explain something important about our northern natural forests here in BC. So native insects and fires are part of the web of life here in northern BC. Our forests burn, they get chewed up by insects. Disturbances like this can kill a lot of trees, but they create complexity and heterogeneity in forests across landscapes. They're very important actually. This has been happening for thousands of years. We know that these disturbances will get more extensive and severe as the climate progresses, but our forests actually owe their structure and complexity to these natural workings. Areas that have been disturbed by fire or insects provide habitat that's not in industrialized plantation landscapes. And some people actually argue that the role of dead trees plays an ecological role that's greater to their role as living trees. This is the kind of thing you'll see online if you go to the Wood Pellet Association of Canada website. This is from a few months ago. The industry will say things like, biomass plays a critical role in helping local communities and the forest industry respond to natural disasters, and salvaging damaged forests to return the area to healthy, productive forest cover. In forester speak, an unhealthy forest is one with a natural disturbance. And the way you address that, if you're a forester, is by logging. And this is a really clever way to gain social license for logging primary forest. And this type of messaging pervades pretty much all propaganda that you see coming out of the BC pellet interests. So industry and government are trying to manufacture consent for what they want to do by building up a public panic about things like insects and fire. So last spring, a member of our steering committee, Sean O'Rourke, was exploring an area just 45 minutes east of our community, and he came upon this flagging, which has the name of a local pellet company on it. He explored further, and he discovered that they had actually gotten a license to log this cedar hemlock forest for pellets. A conversation with our local First Nation confirmed this, and these are some photos of the area. I'm just gonna click through these photos so you can see what this forest looks like here. This is flagging that would demarcate a road. So a trapper, Don Wilkins is his name, whose line would be affected by this logging and who was very unhappy about this, contacted us, and he took us to some other parts of the license area that we wouldn't have been otherwise able to access. We needed quads, as you can see from this drone shot. What's on the right is the area within the pellet license. So in the fall of 2020, we released a video featuring Don. We got TV and online news on this. Pacific Bioenergy was going to log this area this past winter, but they chose not to. So there's a window right now for us to protect this area from under this license from logging, and that's a temporary relief for us. So Diane Nicholls is BC's chief forester. She makes decisions on how much logging companies can log and where. And she said this at the bioeconomy, Canadian Bioeconomy Conference, which is an industry audience in the summer of 2020. She said there's additional wood out there that we don't currently utilize. That's where the opportunity is for the bioeconomy. She also said in the story, I've circled it on this slide, that pellets are good for forest health. And that was from December last year. So as it turns out, according to the BC government, forests that are not considered sawlog worthy can be considered pellet worthy, or at least that's how it reads in this official document online about that the chief forester authored. So the other story you'll hear from high-level people in BC is that logging forests for pellets is a climate solution. Academics like this guy are in on it too. This is Dr. Gary Bull, who's living up to his name. So he refers to forests that get logged for pellets as waste or low-grade fiber. Fiber is a term used by some people in BC to refer to they refer to forests as fiber. This article came out about a month after the feature article on the pellet cut block came out in the Narwhal. So maybe this was industry damage control, who's to say. So this is BC's Minister of Forests. This is information from the Wood Pellets Association of Canada conference in February that she was at. She said that pellets reduce greenhouse gas emissions and increase carbon storage in our forests. I don't know how that's actually possible. You'll see that the company, I just screenshotted this slide from that conference. Skeena Bioenergy is the name of the company, and they actually identify our inland rainforest as a great source of feedstock for pellets. Western hemlock is a species that only grows on the coast, and it only grows in the inland rainforest here in BC. And this slide shows that they actually consider this a great thing to turn into pellets. So back to our pellet cut block. This is an old red cedar with what looks like a bear den in it. If you read some of the press releases coming out of the BC government, you'll see language about how feedstock for pellets, pellet plants is waste, low value, damaged, inferior. So in combination with rebranding our rainforests as low value and waste, they are also branding the fuel coming from our primary forests as clean and green. Clean BC, which is BC's climate change strategy, refers to bioenergy from forests as clean and green and renewable. This is classic greenwashing, as was pointed out by Ben Parfit in a recent article by the Center for Policy Alternatives. I would suggest people read this if they have the chance. Our point of view is that if these are sourced from primary forests and they are none of these things, as was pointed out in the previous presentation by Sally, protecting ecosystems is an established solution to climate change that the BC government completely ignores. So this is a drone shot from an area adjacent to planned pellet cut block that you all saw in the photos. what I want to say is that what's happening in BC is not about dealing with waste or doing right by the climate. It's about finding new ways to exploit our forests and to revive what's a dying sector. Um, because the forests that can be turned into lumber have been reduced to almost nothing here because of 60 years of industrial logging, over mechanization. The province of BC and industry saw the writing on the wall and have now turned their attention to forests that wouldn't have been considered exploitable before. Natural forests, maybe in harder to access places that are made up of species that can't be turned into saw logs, smaller trees.